Okay, the Penguins back from Europe, but, well, they might have left part of themselves in Stockholm because that was not the most entertaining 60 minutes of hockey of the season, a season that's been really entertaining and I think quite surprising and interesting for the Pens, but not so much tonight as they return stateside and they get blown out by the red-hot Minnesota Wild. Minnesota now 8-1-1 in November, hottest team in the league in this month, and the former Pens draft pick, Jonas Gustafsson, gets the shutout as well, the Pens' first shutout loss of the season as they hit, I don't want to call it the quarter mark officially because it's an 82-game season. This is 20 games, but close enough for our purposes. This is Penguins Rapid Reaction. I'm Matt Geica, joined by Hunter Hodies of the Hockey News and also the Locked On Penguins podcast. Hunter, long time no talk, but let's catch up on what we've seen so far from the Pens. Maybe not so much what we saw tonight, though, because I don't know what you would take away from that except, well, they play again in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, looked like they walked home from Sweden, swam across the ocean and all that. Didn't really see – I haven't really had to question effort at all this season because they fought their tails off in every single game. I was questioning effort tonight. I didn't really see it from almost anyone on the ice. They were sleepwalking this entire game. They couldn't even complete consecutive passes, couldn't get any good looks. Defense wasn't there. They didn't get the goaltending. The power play couldn't get going. Everything about that was a complete dud, but let's see how they respond tomorrow against Seattle.
Yeah, they do have the Kraken and then the Buffalo Sabres coming in for the traditional Thanksgiving Eve game. Are we at the point where we should be talking about shoulds for the Pens? And what I mean by that, Hunter, is I heard a lot of people talking about before they went on the trip to Sweden that they should be getting 4 points against the Nashville Predators in those two games. And I just wasn't sure we were quite at that point yet where we should be having these expectations for a team that we all thought was going to be a cellar dweller this season, or most of us thought that. So where are you at right now when you look at, say, a 3-game homestand? What should they do? Are you even thinking about that sort of thing?
I mean, if they want to keep this up, they got to keep banking points. I know, breaking news. If you want to make the playoffs, you got to bank points. But, like, they've started out the season better than anyone ever thought. They were 8-2-2 after October. I mean, Matt, they were at the top of the league going into November. And, you know, the injury bug has really hit. Their play has dipped. They haven't been playing as well in their own zone. Artur Shilovs and Sergei Murashov have been fairly good. Even Tristan Jarry, outside of one really bad period against the Maple Leafs, I think has been fairly solid the entire season. It looks like he's getting closer to a return. I was at practice this week, and he was taking reps for a couple of days. The next day, he kind of sat out. So he's starting to work himself back. I think we're just about at the point because we're almost at the Thanksgiving break. That's usually a good barometer of if you're in a playoff spot, there's a good chance you're going to be in a playoff spot for the rest of the season. That's at least one benchmark. After that, I usually say it's Christmas and then, you know, obviously February, March and all that. So I think for the Penguins, you have to take advantage of this schedule. We know Minnesota had been playing really well coming into this game. The Penguins beat them pretty handily earlier in the year. Then they rattled off 7 of 9, and now it's 8 out of 10. But you got to still bank some points at the end of the month here. Buffalo, I mean, they killed Chicago tonight, but I still don't think the Sabres are that good. Seattle, I think they're just very mediocre throughout their lineup. You better play a lot better in that game than you did in this one, considering that you were off for several days. And then December comes around, and Matt, it's every other day with a bunch of back-to-back sprinkled in there. That's why I've been really saying on the pod that this next week or so is so important because you got to bank points with the Metro teams continuing to win. Now, Washington is starting to play a little bit better. The Islanders are playing well, especially with Matthew Schaefer. We all know how good the Devils and the Hurricanes have been. If you want to really keep this going, you got to keep pace. And, you know, even heading into the Nashville games, their play had started to dip a little bit. It's why even after that great month of October, I was like, not going to push the we're back department. Let's file a claim. I got to see it a little bit. And so far over this recent stretch, you're seeing why I've been a bit hesitant. So I still got to see a bit more. At least, though, they're going to be better this year than we originally thought, at least right now.
Yeah, I think there's still no doubt about that they're ahead of whatever pace we thought they were going to be on at this point of the season, even though they're, I think, now 2-4-2 since they beat the Wild out in Minnesota. And I think that game on Halloween Eve, it was October the 30th, that's the last time I watched a Pens game and I thought, okay, this team looks really impressive, and maybe they do have something this year. They beat Washington over that stretch. Of course, they dominated Nashville in the second game of the global series. But there hasn't been a lot of 60-minute bright spots for the Penguins since they came from behind to beat the Wild on the road. So it's been a little while here. I am willing to give some grace, though. They just played their third game in 13 days. So it's been a weird schedule. I'm not sure I love the global series in the middle of the season. I much prefer it at the beginning of the year, so at least you don't have that gap on both sides of the trip. And I get why they do it, just to accommodate the teams, but I'm not sure it's great for your rhythm and for your flow. And we saw a team that was missing rhythm and flow tonight. What do you think about the power play? The Penguins aren't getting a ton of opportunities. They got a couple tonight, came up empty, obviously getting shut out, but that strikes me as a very important part of their game. And I think that has also taken a downturn in recent games. It's been interesting. They have the best conversion rate in the NHL, but they have the fewest opportunities. So you got to figure at some point they're going to get some more. But at the same time, they actually have dropped off a little bit in recent games here. And with the injuries they have, Brazeau remains out. Rickard Rakell, of course, remains out. Saw him on the broadcast tonight. Reminded me of how much they missed his presence. They might need special teams to carry them, and that wasn't the case tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the power play for the most part has been great all year. You've really seen the Todd Nelson effect, in full place. It's full steam ahead with him. And that's saying something because last year with David Quinn, the Penguins had the 6th ranked power play. The movement was a lot better. They were making quick decisions. They were getting the high danger areas. All of that so far has been on steroids to start the season, especially the movement. The opposing penalty killers just haven't been able to set up. Like, that's the thing. The Penguins are zipping the puck around with authority, and they're getting it to the high danger areas. They're getting that net front presence, and the puck is in the back of the net before the penalty killers can even blank. The zone entries, I feel like, are also a lot better this year, even compared to last year when they were better after David Quinn was running the unit. Last couple of games, you're right. It's definitely fallen off a little bit tonight. I mainly chalk up the power play tonight to just their overall game, Matt. Like, yeah, you wanted to see if they could get some momentum back on that unit because they came into the league came into tonight, with the top power play in the league, but even that was stagnant, just like their 5-on-5 play. So I think it's just a rare off night. I think overall that unit is going to be totally fine. I'm trusting what Todd Nelson has done throughout the year. Even Erik Karlsson, I think, has been great on the power play, which we really can't say for his entire career. Usually he's been great at 5-on-5. But this year especially, I think he's done a great job quarterbacking the power play. And also, you see Crosby in the Leon Draisaitl spot. You see him go below the goal line. You see Evgeny Malkin moving around. Even Ben Kindle has been a net front presence at times, filling in for Rickard Rakell. So everyone is moving, and it's really just keeping the penalty killers that they play against just really off balance. Tonight, I know, different story, but that's been a major reason for why they've started out really hot, as well as the PK. I know tonight, Matt, they were literally less than 15 seconds away from getting that massive penalty kill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much that would have changed the game considering that they didn't have their legs, but the penalty kill has also been great. That's Dan Muse's bread and butter going back to his time as an assistant coach. Mike Stothers, got to shout out him. He's been doing a great job with that unit as well. It's really been a pretty big storyline throughout the year where both special teams units are among the best in the league.
That's a big part of the reason why the Penguins are in a wild card spot right now, despite playing fewer games than I think almost anyone in the Eastern Conference at the moment. The Flyers had 19 games. They had 19 games coming into tonight. So they do have games in hand. It seems really early in the season to be talking about that, but they do have that. However, they're going to make up a lot of those in December, as you alluded to, Hunter. Really, after this upcoming Wednesday, they've got 3 games over the span of 4 days to finish November. Then you said December is a complete gauntlet, some road trips to start, and just jam-packed action. So if you like a lot of Penguins hockey, and we've been missing the Penguins over the last 2 weeks, it feels like they've barely played because they have barely played, but we're going to make up for that in a big way. So we'll see what they're made of in that regard. Injuries, it does seem like we're kind of getting toward the back end of a lot of these. Rakell, Brazeau skating, McGroarty playing well in Wilkes-Barre Scranton. I have to imagine we're going to see him up here sooner than later. Who do you think might be the biggest impact guy to come back to the lineup? Because you've got a guy like Connor Dewar on the first line. Kevin Hayes is on the second line tonight. It doesn't look like a playoff top six in that area. So how are you feeling about where they're at, especially when it comes to these forwards who are apparently getting at least a little bit closer to a return?
Yeah, I think right now there's too many passengers in the lineup. You've been seeing that these last two games. I'm not trying to, disrespect anyone or anyone like that, anything like that, excuse me, but there's just certain players in certain spots in the lineup where I'm like, yeah, like they're really feeling the losses right now. Ricard Raquel, especially on the top line, he had been good to start the year. He's also been really strong on the top power play, and I think Ben Kindle's doing a really solid job replacing him, but Sid especially really needs him back. And the top line in general has just not been as good since Raquel went down. We all know that Sid just isn't the same player defensively that he used to be. Feels like he's getting caved in too much now. And I get it. He's a bit older. He's not 29, 30 anymore. We all know how great offensively he is, but defensively, that part of his game has been gone for the last 2-3 years, in my opinion. It was really on display tonight. Brian Russ was also not good defensively, so they really need him back. And look, Matt, I don't think Justin Brazeau is going to be on his goal per game pace when he comes back, but they really do miss him in the top six. Just the scoring touch that he has, the matchup nightmare that line provides when him, Mantha, and Malkin are all going. I really do think they miss him, even if he's not going to shoot 30 to 35% for the season, which he is not, people. That is going to come down, but they still really miss him quite a bit. Even someone like Billy Koivunen, I know he had a little bit of a rough stretch. I think some people have been too hard on him to start the year. He went down to Wilkes-Barre after, lit it up, came back, rightfully so, and he was getting some chances, but he's just been really snake bitten. So I think once he's able to come back in a third line role, that would be nice. I've been talking on Locked On. It would be cool if Rucker McGroarty came up at some point if they want to do a full kids line on the third line with McGroarty, Koivunen, and Kindle. I think that would be a lot of fun to watch. And I do think you're going to see McGroarty at some point. I think they're going to give him 10 to 15-ish games, maybe 20 to really just get a runway going and then maybe bring him up. I mean, he didn't participate in camp, didn't play in the preseason. He's missed all the regular season so far. They got to get him up to speed. So you're going to see him probably after the new year, if I had to guess, but it's just too many injuries right now, man. Like the top six, I have all the respect in the world for Kevin Hayes. He's not a second line player at this stage of his career. I think he's a fine depth player. You saw that on display last year. If he's playing, fourth line minutes for you at times, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And hey, I'll even say this for Noah Chari. I have not been high on him during his tenure. He actually was finding something with Lizotte and Dewar. And once some of these players come back, I really want Dewar to go back down to the fourth line and reunite with Lizotte because I really like those two together. So again, Matt, it's just really too many, forwards playing out of their depth and just too many injuries. I really do think that's been a main reason for this slide, but we'll have to see how they do play once they're able to get everyone healthy. It's not surprising though that there's so many injuries because it feels like that happens all the time in the Crosby Malkin era.
And just across the NHL in general, we are seeing an incredible amount of injuries. And I guess it's hard to gauge it without looking at some of the data, but based on the data, it's not just vibes. It's also the facts that we are seeing more injuries and more prominent players getting hurt. So even just today, Connor Hellebuck announced he's going to be missing 6 to 8 weeks. So those of us who are USA hockey fans are hoping he gets the knee figured out there because he underwent some sort of a minor surgical procedure. Looking ahead to Milan Cortina, I know that makes me a little bit nervous. What doesn't make me nervous is that Matt Boldy is going to be on Team USA. That guy is an absolute monster. 2 goals, 1 assist tonight. Kirill Kaprizov, a goal and an assist. Minnesota looks like they've got it clicking. Last time we saw them, Hunter, they did not look like they had it clicking. Bill Guerin and the owner, Tom Leopold, they really put it all on the line with the big contract to Kirill Kaprizov, $17 million a year annually. I'm not going to say he's not worth that because I think he probably is. It's not his fault that Connor McDavid took a lot less than he could because he could have been right around $20 million if you're looking at real value. But your assessment of the Wild and how serious they are of a contender. I was impressed by how they went toe-to-toe with Vegas last year. They were a couple of bounces away from beating them in the first round, and then who knows how far they go. But I guess that's what it comes down to in the playoffs a lot of times is a bounce here or there. Is this a team you think can be a real contender in what looks to be a pretty strong Western Conference?
I still don't think when everyone is fully healthy in the West, I still think Vegas is better. Colorado is the top team right now, and rightfully so. I mean, now they have one regulation loss to start the season. They're kicking everyone's butt to start the year. I still think Colorado, obviously, Vegas is better. I still would take Dallas over them. Winnipeg, if regular season Hellebuck shows up, but that's sometimes a big if in the playoffs. I think Minnesota's a playoff caliber team. You saw that last year, and you're seeing that now in this stretch. I even felt like when the Penguins played them the first time, they were better than their record indicated. The luck wasn't on their side. They were also really banged up. Matt Zuccarello missed a lot of the season, and now he's back, and he's at a point per game to start the year, which is huge. Obviously mentioned Boldy. Thank God he is on Team USA. They also haven't even gotten Brock Faber going yet. Once he gets going, I think that makes this team even more dangerous. So they can definitely make the playoffs, and I have them making the playoffs. It's just that how are they going to match up against some of these other teams' big guns, like the Avalanche, like the Golden Knights, if Vegas is healthy, like Dallas, if the Stars are healthy. So I think they're definitely in the conversation, but I still don't know if they can beat some of these top tier teams in the West. I have them as a playoff team, though.
Yeah, as of right now, they're fifth in the Central, actually tied for third, if you want to put it that way. If you factor out games played, tied with the Jets, tied with the Blackhawks, who just got wiped out by Buffalo somehow tonight. But the Blackhawks have been an enjoyable story, much like the Penguins in the Eastern Conference. I want to talk to you about a couple more aspects of the Penguins game here before I let you go. Hunter, through 20 games, how are you feeling about the D core? Because I felt that was the weakest part of the team coming into the season. Parker Wotherspoon being a fantastic partner to Erik Karlsson has certainly boosted their prospects on the blue line. Erik Karlsson playing like the guy we thought we'd be getting in Pittsburgh 2 years ago has added to that. But looking at tonight, Chris Letang getting caught out of position a couple of times. I don't think he's been very good on the whole this season. I think he left Ryan Shea out to dry a couple of times. Shea hasn't been bad, but other than that, it's been a revolving door of other guys in the bottom pairing, or your Connor Cliftons, your Matt Dumbas, Harrison Brunik. Who knows if we see him again in an NHL game this season? So I just feel like a lot of uncertainty there, even though Wotherspoon has certainly stepped up. So for me, it's still the weakest link of the Pens. But how would you assess their performance, the D-Corps' performance over the first quarter of the season?
The top pair has been sensational. I think Parker Wotherspoon, you mentioned it. He's been sensational since coming over in free agency. That was a really big win for Kyle Dubas and the rest of the front office and the scouting staff. They really did their homework on him. And, he hasn't really had a lot of top pairing minutes to start his career, but he's been awesome this year. He's been everything Erik Karlsson has needed in a D partner since Karlsson got to Pittsburgh. I'm not trying to disrespect Marcus Pettersson or anything like that, but, I think Wotherspoon has been an even better fit for Karlsson than Pettersson was, which is saying something because, I liked a lot of Marcus Pettersson's tenure as a Penguin. Karlsson, you just see him having a lot more free reign in general. He's not been caught out of position. He's not too aggressive with some of his pinches. He's been dazzling in the offensive zone. The skating has very much been there. One of my bold predictions coming into the season was that he was going to finish the year with 70 plus points. Right now, that's looking fairly solid. I hope it can continue, but I'm having a ton of fun watching, and he's driving a lot of the offense from the blue line, which is expected. He is the Penguins' number one defenseman, Matt, and they need to play him like it. Like he deserves to get all of the minutes up there. Second pair, I actually think Ryan Shea has been mostly a revelation on that pair for the entire year, which I did not see coming. I even said heading into the year, and after the first 3 games, kind of is what he is, a number 6, number 7. After that, he kind of took it personally and has been fairly good since then. So tonight, definitely not as good, but again, not really anyone, no one really played well tonight. Chris Letang, a lot more down than up for me. I feel like a lot of the game has left him, which sucks because he's a franchise icon, and in his prime, he was one of the best defensemen in the league, but his skating is not there as much anymore. The decision-making is quite often poor, which you saw on display tonight too, Matt. It stinks just because we've watched him his entire career. It always sucks when you see someone's game really go downhill. So in my opinion, some of the underlyings may be there for Letang, but, eye test wise, I just haven't seen it in a lot of games. I want it to improve because he's been one of my favorite players throughout this entire era of Penguins hockey. You won't find a bigger Chris Letang fan than me, which is why it really sucks. Bottom pair, we all know what Clifton and Dumba are. They're kind of just meh. Like Clifton, he'll hit people, but that's really it. Matt Dumba, kind of the same. And Matt, I'm always there for a good physical, clean hit, but you got to give me something more than that. I'm just not really seeing anything else than that for those two. And then for Harrison Brunick, that's the thing. They've played him 9 games. I think they're going to give him that conditioning stint in Wilkes-Barre because you can't just keep scratching him. There's no reason for him to just keep rotting up there. There's that little bit of a loophole that now he's been scratched for more than 5 games or right at 5 games. Now it's 6. It's going to be 7 on Saturday, probably. You can send him to the AHL on a conditioning stint, 5 games, 14 days. And then once that happens, I think he's going to go to the World Juniors. And I think he should go to the World Juniors because those are high stakes, highly competitive games that he can keep developing in. And then after those 2 things, I think he's going to come back here and they will have a decision to make whether to keep playing him and see how he does after those 2 situations or send him back to Kamloops. So it's definitely an annoying situation. I get everyone's frustration, but that's what I think they're going to do. They're going to give him that conditioning stint in Wilkes-Barre and then send him to the World Juniors.
Yeah, your colleague Kelsey at the Hockey News has been all over that possibility for the conditioning stint. Kind of an obscure loophole there, which I wasn't even aware of coming into this season, mostly because the Penguins haven't had an 18 or a 19-year-old that has been worth keeping around. So I guess good problem to have in that regard. Ben Kindle got past the 9-game barrier there, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. Looks like he's going to be in Pittsburgh to stay, and for good reason. Harrison Brunick, some up and down to his game, but he's shown some flashes, and I guess it would be tough to see him go if they do eventually send him back to junior. But like you said, this upcoming month could be a big possibility for him. Get some playing time at the AHL level, get some opportunity in the World Juniors. Those opportunities, those experiences cannot hurt the young man who has not played that many games in a season in recent years at the junior level. So there's also that sort of pitch count consideration, I guess you could say, with Brunick. One of the biggest questions coming into the season, Hunter Hodies is my guest from Locked On Penguins and also Penguin site co-editor at the Hockey News. I wanted to talk to you about Dan Muse because whether it was X's and O's or a change in personality behind the bench or just a fresh slate and a new opportunity for players to make an impression on a coaching staff. I was looking forward to this season, maybe for that reason the most, that we would have some, several fresh sets of eyes on the Penguins from behind the bench. So what's your early grade on Dan Muse? I know the record looks good, but what's your feeling on how he meshes with this team, with its personalities, and where he might go from here in his first NHL season as a head coach?
Yeah, I think if you were voting on the Jack Adams right now, he'd 100% be a finalist. Hell, Matt, if he leads this team to the playoffs, I think you might have to give him the Jack Adams because no one would really see that coming. Again, no one has seen this start coming, but especially if they're able to make the playoffs in a conference that I still don't think is very good, I think you'd have to give him serious Jack Adams consideration. When I watched the team for the first 20 games, outside of this one and one other one where I don't think they played that well, the effort has been there, the fight has been there, the compete level has been there, and they've strung together stretches of really good play. They've never really been out of almost any game this season. Again, the Minnesota one being one of 2, but he feels like it's such a breath of fresh air. All the puck support, all the puck pressure, at least to start the year, they were taking the fight to the opposition in the third period. And it's come back at times when they've had a lead, even though other times we've seen, some late Mike Sullivan hockey come back where they just kind of give up at times in the third. You saw that against Toronto in the third period where they skated them off the rink in the first 2 periods. And then they just completely, took their foot off the gas pedal. But so far this season, it's clear to me that a change was very much needed. I will always have all the respect in the world for Mike Sullivan. He very much helped put those 2 Stanley Cup banners up in the rafters, but there comes a time where you need to make a change. And Matt, you've also seen a couple of players make some eye-opening comments to the media this year. Eric Carlson kind of threw a little bit of shade at him about a week and a half ago. You saw earlier this week, Ryan Graves was talking to Jason Mackey of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and he kind of threw a little bit of shade towards Mike. So I think they're happy for the change. And in a lot of games this season, you're seeing a team that looks really refreshed, honestly. And for the most part this season, it's the most fun I've had watching the Penguins in the last 3 seasons, going back to when they made the playoffs. I know they lost to the Rangers in that series, but since then I just hadn't had as much fun watching. This year, despite a little bit of a downward trend these last few games, I'm still having a lot more fun watching them, just because, especially, there weren't high expectations. I feel like right now they're playing with a little bit of house money, just with the way they have started and all that. So, hey, I think he gets an A in my book.
It's been the most refreshing season for me since, I would say, 2017-18, when they were going for the three-peat. There was some staleness that creeped in, but a lot of that's just human nature, right? It's nothing against Mike Sullivan. It's just occasionally, I don't care what sport it is. I know hockey gets a bad rap for rotating through coaches quickly, but hey, it happens in other sports as well. We just saw an NBA coach fired after 12 games. So it's not just a hockey thing. I think it's a human nature thing. And for that reason, big salute to Mike Sullivan. I would say I hope he does well in New York, but not that well, I guess, considering the Rangers are a rival of the Pens in the Metro Division in the Eastern Conference. So as far as that goes, fairly well, but focus on what Dan Muse has brought to the table. What I do like is, like you said, there is a more connected nature to their play. It's a little bit of a throwback to, I guess, earlier eras of hockey where you're not so stretched out. There's a lot more puck support, both offensively and defensively. I think it fits what they're doing right now. And it's been an effective counter to a lot of teams that they've played so far this season. Big test coming up, though. There's just so many games. The level of competition picks up too here in December. But hard to say it's not an opportunity in the next couple of games, at least, to get their equilibrium back after the Europe trip. They've got Seattle on Saturday. They've got Buffalo on Wednesday. Like I said at the top, I'm not sure we're at the should portion of the proceedings for the Penguins in their rebuild. But I'm not afraid to say my expectations have definitely risen a little bit here. And that's what's made it fun so far through 20 games this season, even though tonight was certainly the biggest dud of the year for the Pens on both sides of the puck. But Hunter, tell the folks where they can find your work. I know you've been with the Hockey News for a couple of seasons now. You and Kelsey holding it down on the Penguins site, and you and Pat on the Locked On Penguins podcast. So you're a busy guy when it comes to the Pens.
Yeah, daily shows every day, Monday through Friday, for the Locked On Penguins podcast with my great friend and co-host Patrick Damp. We'll be back on Monday for a fresh set of episodes recapping both of these games. And then, since July, I've been running it with Kelsey on the Hockey News. It's been a lot of fun. Look for some good stuff coming in the future. Kelsey's going to have the recap for this game, even though she's probably had it written for the last hour or two. But I'll have a preview out tomorrow for the game against the Kraken, and we'll have some features coming out to end the month as well. Got a lot of good things coming. And if you guys are still on Twitter, you can follow me at Hunter Hodies. Same handle, on Blue Sky if anyone's there too.
There you go. Hunter and I have been talking about the Pens since, 2014 or something like that. So it has been quite the journey since then. We went from, is the Crosby-Malkin era a disappointment to an embarrassment of riches with back-to-back cups, to are they a disappointment again, to firing Mike Sullivan and moving on and refreshing. So I always call them the most interesting franchise in sports, Hunter. So it's our privilege and our joy a lot of times. And at least they keep you entertained, whether it would be to make you completely frustrated or to make you pull your hair out, or they give you unprecedented highs and fantastic superstars. And, of course, the 5 championships since 1967. I think that's tied for the most in the NHL. So it's always an enjoyable ride, or maybe not enjoyable all the time, but it's always a compelling ride. I'll put it that way when it comes to following the Penguins.
Yes, chaotic, I think. Yeah, it's crazy. It's been over a decade at this point since you and I started talking Penguins hockey. I mean, I was some dumb 15, 16-year-old kid. Now here I am, and I'm almost 30. It's pretty crazy how the time just flies. But hey, I'm gonna have to get you on the pod pretty soon here. We'll be definitely doing another one of these again, probably a couple more down the road, hopefully.
Absolutely. And also, anniversary today. This is the, what is it, 5th or 14th anniversary of Sidney Crosby coming back from the concussion and putting up all the points against the Islanders. So keep that in mind a lot of times, too. I try to remember that, we almost lost Crosby in his prime. And I mean, the determination he had, the grit to come back from that and to fight through all the setbacks, and it was a crazy time to be a Penguins fan. All the rumors flying around. I don't know how well you remember that time period, but definitely one that I'm glad we're past. But always this time of year thinking about that sensational comeback. Lemieux was known for his comebacks, but Sid had a pretty good one there that night too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean that was funny. I actually had hockey practice like during the game. Thankfully, I was able to see the goal before I had to go. And then I remember I got on the ice. I was so giddy, and people were like, "What?" I said, "Oh, like Sid came back," and it was. I showed a couple of my old teammates the goal, and they were like, "Okay, yeah, he's fully back." And it was just. I probably woke up people down the street with how excited I was. That was still that the celebration to this day is one of the best Sid celebrations of all time. Just a great goal.
Should be his statue whenever he does get that statue is that pose after scoring the backhand goal in that first period. All right, Hunter, I'm going to let you go. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you, Matt, as always.
Okay. We'll see you later. All right. That'll do it for Penguins Rapid Reaction. As you can probably tell, I'm laboring tonight, much like the hockey team was as well. The flu has caught up with me. I heard that the flu season could be really bad this year, so maybe I'm just getting it out of the way early. Going to try to put up a few more of these videos throughout the course of the season. Well, hopefully more than a few. But yeah, pardon me. I'm quickly running out of fuel here when it comes to the voice. But keep it right here on my YouTube channel. Also, we'll be sharing various links and clips on social media. Until next time, we'll see you, and let's go Pens.